On our broadcast tonight, more provocation or a return to dialogue. It could be a turning point for security on the Korean peninsula this week as North Korea celebrates the birthday of its founder just days before South Korea and the U.S. end their annual joint military drills. Korea's national health insurer has filed a suit against 3 domestic and foreign tobacco companies for $50 million in damages to cover the cost of treating smoking-related diseases. Plus, Kiev's deadline for pro-Russian forces to evacuate government buildings in eastern Ukraine passes to no avail, with the Ukrainian president vowing earlier to take military action. These stories and more next on ARIRANG News at 8. Good evening and thank you for joining us. It's Monday, April 14th here in Seoul, and I'm Choi Yu-sun. While North Korea will be celebrating the birth of its late founder Kim Il-sung this week, South Korea and the international community will be watching with anticipation to see if the regime launches yet another provocation. Our foreign affairs correspondent Hwang Sang-hee starts us off.
April has historically been a month of provocations for North Korea. It was in April that the communist regime conducted 2 of its 5 long-range ballistic missile launches and unilaterally closed down the inter-Korean factory zone in the north. The month has a number of politically significant events, and provocations are one way for the North Korean leader to demonstrate his strength and power for regime consolidation. If history repeats itself, this week could turn out to be a crucial one in inter-Korean relations. Tuesday marks the birthday of North Korea's founder Kim Il-sung, and on Friday, the joint military drills between Seoul and Washington will come to an end. North Korea's notification to Japan of possible missile launches by Thursday is also raising concerns. This comes amid back-to-back meetings between Seoul, Washington, Beijing, and Tokyo as they try to jumpstart the long-stalled 6-party talks. The multilateral dialogue, consisting of the 2 Koreas, the U.S., China, Japan, and Russia, has not taken place since late 2008. Some experts say the North could back away from further provocations and instead return to the negotiating table.
There's a chance North Korea could give up its nuclear tests if the 6-party talks on denuclearizing the North resume. Pyongyang could make a gesture to improve inter-Korean ties first.
Still, most experts warn of another round of provocations by Pyongyang ahead of U.S. President Barack Obama's visit to Seoul and Tokyo at the end of this month. Hwang Sang-hee, ARIRANG News.
Just last week, Korea's biggest tobacco company won a 15-year legal battle filed by individuals seeking compensation for smoking-related illnesses. But now it's the National Health Insurance Service's turn, and they think they've got a much better shot at winning. Our Kwon So-ah has this report.
For the first time ever here in Korea, a public organization, the National Health Insurance Service, is suing cigarette companies to recover medical costs incurred due to tobacco-related illnesses. Less than a week ago, 7 individuals and their families lost a 15-year-long case against Korea's biggest cigarette manufacturer, KT&G. This time, the plaintiff is the National Health Insurance Service, which filed a $52 million complaint Monday against KT&G, as well as Philip Morris and British American Tobacco. The health agency says nearly 4% of its total health insurance payouts have gone toward tobacco-related treatment since 2011.
As you all are well aware, smoking cigarettes affects the nation's people, and especially women and adolescents. We are going to proceed with the legal battle for the future of our nation and to guarantee that health insurance costs are maintained.
The Health Insurance Service will focus on proving the cause and effect relationship between cancer and smoking, along with any breaches of the law that the tobacco companies may have committed. It isn't much different from the case presented by the individuals who lost their case last week. The National Health Insurance Service says due to its big database and its thorough investigation, it has a better chance than individuals of winning in this case.
KTNG, the defendant in the individual's case, refused to reveal a lot of its data. We understand that a lack of information provided caused the plaintiffs to lose.
The insurance service emphasized that the entire trial won't just be taking place behind closed doors in court, but that every bit of the process will be openly shared with the public. Kwon So-ah, ARIRANG News.
A man in his early 20s in Korea's southeastern province of Gyeongsang-buk-do has been arrested in the death of his 28-month-old son. Police say the man, identified only by his family name Chung, came home in March to discover his neglected son dead. They claim he hid the body in his apartment complex's veranda for more than three weeks before disposing of it over the weekend in a trash bag. They say Chung separated from his wife in February and since then barely returned home, spending most of his time in internet cafes. The exact cause of death for the toddler is currently under investigation, but authorities plan to file murder charges against his father. And staying with domestic violence against children, the recent cases of two women convicted of beating their stepdaughters to death have shone one bright light on the child abuse problem here in Korea, and another one on lawmakers who are being asked to address it. Our Son Jung-in takes a look at the continuous rise of child abuse cases in the nation.
According to the Ministry of Health and Welfare, the number of child abuse cases reported last year amounted to 6,800, up nearly 400 cases from a year earlier. But the actual figure is estimated to be far higher, considering those that go unreported. Among the cases on record, 80% of the children were victimized by a parent. Biological fathers were the most common abuser, accounting for 41%, followed by biological mothers at 35%, and stepmothers and stepfathers at 2% and 1.6% respectively. If they weren't being abused at home, the most common place was at child welfare centers or daycare centers, where nearly 10% of cases were reported. 40% of the victims said they were abused almost every day. The harsh reality is that similar findings are reported every year, but nothing is done to address the problem. The most recent cases, in which two women received 10 and 15-year prison sentences for beating their stepdaughters to death, has shed even more light on the problem. They've prompted the public once again to call on the government to come up with detailed measures to prevent child abuse and protect children. Son Jung-in, ARIRANG News.
Over at Korea's National Assembly, lawmakers still remain at loggerheads over key bills during the current April session. The ruling Saenuri Party reiterated its calls Monday, urging the main opposition party to cooperate. Our parliamentary correspondent Kim Young-gil has more.
A number of crucial bills are still pending at the National Assembly. With less than 2 months to go before local elections, the ruling Saenuri Party was quick to pin the blame on the main opposition party.
The main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy is keeping so many bills at hostage because it is not backing away from a set of broadcasting-related bills. We need to pass the welfare bills, the anti-nuclear terrorism bills, and the defense cost-sharing pact with the U.S., along with many others at April's parliamentary extra session.
Che said that during the administrations of Presidents Kim Dae-jung and Roh Moo-hyun, the percentage of bills passed was about 60% and 40% respectively. Because the Saenuri Party, which was the main opposition party at the time, cooperated. The passage of bills during the Lee Myung-bak and Park Geun-hye administration came at just 15% and 12% respectively. Che said it's because the current opposition party has refused to work with the ruling party. The New Politics Alliance for Democracy has put more focus on making the candidate nomination system more transparent ahead of the June local elections.
The party will start fielding candidates starting today. We will replace over 20% of incumbent local government heads at the city's ward offices and councillors applying for nominations in local elections.
The move is intended to replace officials who have been repeatedly nominated by the party over the years. On Monday, the New Politics Alliance for Democracy held their first meeting to screen candidates who may have engaged in bribery, embezzlement, or sexual harassment. The opposition party hopes that by applying stricter rules, it will help the party reach its aim of creating new politics. 김영길, ARIRANG News.
Want a job at Samsung? Prepare to get run through the ringers. It all starts with an aptitude test, which about 100,000 people have already taken this year alone. It underscores the appeal of working for Korea's largest conglomerate, but also that the nation's economy could be in trouble if Samsung hits hard times. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
On an early Sunday morning, this large group of people is heading toward a local school ground. They're not adolescents looking for extra credit. They're job applicants to Korea's largest company, Samsung. Working for the conglomerate is considered a dream job as it offers stability, benefits, and good pay. So what does it take to get hired? The first hurdle applicants must clear is a Samsung aptitude test. If they want an interview, they have to pass the standardized test first. It evaluates a person's abilities in a wide range of subjects, including linguistics, math, and logic. There's heated competition among job applicants each and every year, and this year is no exception.
I could have graduated college late last year, but postponed it to study for the Samsung aptitude test. I even took classes to get a good score.
Since the beginning of the year, more than 100,000 people have applied for employment at Samsung, but just around 4,000 are expected to land a regular paying job. That means that only 1 out of 20 people will get in.
Reflecting this fervor to get a job at Samsung, there's a variety of workbooks on every subject of the Samsung aptitude test, illustrating just how much influence the Korean conglomerate has on the Korean economy and society.
Samsung Group's total market value was more than $286 billion in 2012, comprising nearly 26% that of all listed companies in Korea. At the same time, combined operating profits of Samsung and its affiliates were nearly 16% of the listed companies in 2012, at around $29 billion. Market researcher CEO Scores suggests a need to find ways for other Korean companies to boost their revenues as well. They highlight the risks to the Korean economy if Samsung faces external risks that hurt their profit margin. Kim Ji-yeon, ARIRANG News.
The income levels of workers here in Korea are becoming much more polarized. The Financial Supervisory Service and the National Tax Service say the number of office workers earning more than 100 million won, or roughly $96,000, topped 410,000 as of 2012. And that's more than double the total from 2008. But the number of workers making less than $29,000 also edged up by 4% to more than 11 million during the same period. $29,000 is generally considered to be an average starting salary for a college graduate here in Korea. The report adds that the income gap between regular workers and executive-level officers is increasing. At Samsung Electronics, for example, those in the higher position earned 66 times as much. President Park Geun-hye visited a vocational high school in central Seoul earlier on this Monday, where she emphasized that students must prepare to realize their potential after entering the workforce, talking about how a rise in high school graduates landing jobs would contribute toward youth employment. President Park observed senior-level classes in electromechanics and jewelry design management. She also listened to students, teachers, and industry experts who made suggestions on how to improve the environment for student training and employment. There are currently nearly 140 of these specialized high schools in Korea. They cooperate with businesses to foster customized personnel for specific industries through practical and on-site training. More than 40% of their graduates found jobs last year. Local authorities are investigating the Korean branches of City Capital and IBK Capital over charges that the personal data of tens of thousands of their customers was leaked. Korea's state prosecutors say that the new leaks, just the latest in a series of breaches in Korea, affect 17,000 customers from each of the financial companies. In the City Capital case, it's alleged a company employee was involved in leaking the information. The employee denies the charges. The nation's financial authorities are planning to punish the companies as soon as they wrap up their investigation, adding the measures will be as severe as the law allows. Korea is well known around the world for numerous things. It's pop music or K-pop, its popular drama, and its delicious food. Well, now there's another factor to add to the list: Korean games, which are gaining in popularity on the world stage. Our Shin Se-min has the details.
More Korean games are being exported than Korean pop music. According to a report released by the Korea Finance Corporation on Monday, the nation's game exports topped $2.6 billion in 2012. That is more than 10 times larger than exports of Korean music in the same year. The gaming figure refers to all online video, mobile, PC, and arcade games being sold outside the country. The report says game-related exports also far outstrip those of knowledge information, movies, publishing, and advertisements. Korea's gaming industry brought in $180 million in revenue in 2012, with over 90% of those coming from online games. While video and arcade game sales have tumbled since 2011, the growing prevalence of smartphones helped mobile games contribute to the overall boost in sales. The local industry has been doing very well in recent years, but Korea is still not a leading country in the global market. The US and Japan top the international market share with over 18% each. China, Britain, and Korea follow with 12%, 8%, and 6% respectively. Experts say fostering the right environment for industries such as games, movies, animation, and design is crucial, as they'll be able to create more added value in the future. Shin Se-min, ARIRANG News.
It's time to check on stories making headlines on the global front, from the deepening crisis in Ukraine to a deadly forest fire in South America. We now go to our Paul Lee at the News Center. Paul, let's start with Ukraine. It looks like Kiev has given a final ultimatum to protesters in the eastern part of the country. How's the situation unfolding there?
Well, Ukraine's acting President Alexander Turchinov has called on all pro-Russian activists to leave the government buildings they are occupying by Monday morning or else. But the separatists, many of them armed, have not backed down. Meanwhile, on a diplomatic front, Russia has taken its case to the United Nations Security Council. Our Connie Lee has more.
At an emergency UN Security Council session on Sunday, it was a war of words between Ukrainian and Russian officials. They blamed each other for the increasing crisis in eastern Ukraine.
We are trying to avoid any clashes. We do not want blood on our territory. The conflict is spied from outside. That's why we address Russia Federation. I know it is 8th or 10th time. Don't interfere.
The meeting, called by Russia, came about after Ukraine's president said he would launch an anti-terrorist operation against pro-Russian forces in his country. Ukraine has vowed military action against the pro-Russian activists if they don't leave the government buildings they were occupying by Monday morning. Russia wants the U.S. to stop Kiev from carrying out the operation.
Let us focus on our attention on what we can actually do in this case, and I'm looking here at my Western colleagues.
But the U.S. is asking Russia to withdraw its troops from the Ukrainian border.
It is hard to reconcile the behavior of the Russian Federation, the propaganda of the Russian Federation, the military actions of the Russian Federation, which range from the massing of 40,000 troops on the border to the subversive activities inside Ukraine.
And despite the latest threats out of Ukraine, pro-Russia activists remain inside the seized government buildings in eastern Ukraine. Britain's UN ambassador says there were up to 40,000 equipped Russian troops amassed on the Russian border with Ukraine. Connie Lee, ARIRANG News.
Well, let's hope this latest round of diplomatic efforts help to de-escalate the situation. Let's now turn to the ongoing search for that missing Malaysia airliner. Paul, do we have any good news at this point?
It's day 38 of the multinational search for Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, and still there are no confirmed signs of debris. As for possible pings for the plane's black box data recorder, search teams say they haven't detected any further signals since last week. Despite the lack of progress, Chief Search Coordinator Angus Houston says they're going deeper underwater.
As I have said before, the experts have therefore determined that the Australian defence vessel Ocean Shield will cease searching with the towed pinger locator later today and deploy the autonomous underwater vehicle Bluefin 21 as soon as possible.
The U.S. Navy underwater drone will be deployed to scour the floor of the southern Indian Ocean, but Houston said it could take several months to search the area. Investigators say they're confident they've narrowed the approximate position of the wreckage of the Boeing 777 to some 1,600 kilometers northwest of the Australian city of Perth.
And turning now to Japan, where the operator of the damaged Fukushima nuclear plant has warned of yet another leak. Paul, how big of a leak are we looking at?
Well, the Tokyo Electric Power Company has reportedly said that about 200 tons of highly radioactive water has leaked from a containment unit. According to Japanese media, massive amounts of radioactive water were mistakenly redirected into the wrong building, flooding the basements of the crippled Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. Japan's Nuclear Regulation Authority has ordered TEPCO to continue monitoring the situation and that the contaminated material be recovered back into a storage tank or processing facility. The leak was discovered by workers on Saturday, but the faulty pumps which caused the flooding were halted on Sunday. The Fukushima nuclear reactor suffered a triple meltdown in 2011 following a major earthquake and tsunami which rocked the region.
Speaking of natural disasters, let's head to South America, where a deadly forest fire has ripped through Chile. Paul, what's the scope of the damage there?
At least 16 people have been killed and 10,000 others forced to evacuate due to the blaze. Authorities in Chile say the massive forest fire broke out on Saturday and has since destroyed over 700 hectares of land, including many residential areas of the city of Valparaiso.
The fire immediately spread to the hill where we were living. We ran out immediately without taking anything. Just now we went back and saw that nearly nothing was left. Everything has been burned.
The government has set up temporary shelters as rescue and medical services attempt to deal with the situation. Chilean President Michelle Bachelet has declared a state of emergency for the city, with over 3,000 firefighters, police officers, and military troops deployed to the affected areas. Yusun?
All right, Paul, thanks for that update, and we'll see you back in just about 2 hours. And time to get an update on the weather with our Kim Bo-kyung at the Weather Center. Bo-kyung, it was warm spring day here in Seoul. Will we be lucky enough to get more of the same tomorrow?
Well, absolutely, Yusan. This afternoon, daytime highs in most parts of the country jump to the mid-20s amid sunny skies, and tomorrow looks to hold more of the same. Taking a look at the current conditions, the nation is under the influence of a high-pressure system from the West Sea, which is why we're seeing clear skies across the map. Now, tomorrow, eastern coastal regions are forecast to rise above seasonal averages, with Daegu forecast to peak at 28 degrees. The big temperature gap between the morning and evening evening will continue, so please make sure to grab a thin cardigan before heading out. Other than that, nationwide showers are forecast on Thursday and Friday, which will provide some much-needed moisture in the atmosphere. Taking a look at tomorrow's readings, Seoul tops out at 19 degrees, Daegu jumps to 28, Gwangju and Busan reach the mid-20s. Other regions such as Jeju makes it to 20 degrees, Dokdo and Mount Kumgang top out at 16 and 20. Well, that's all the updates I have for you this hour, but I'll be back with more after 10.
Thanks, Bokyung, and that brings us to the end of our newscast. I'm Choi Yu-san in Seoul. Join us again for more updates on our primetime news at 10 p.m. Korea time.